When I talk to you about envy, I'm not talking about something distant or theoretical. I'm talking about something you feel in your skin. Because when God chooses a woman, something changes inside her before she even changes outside. There is a firmness that is not arrogance, a peace that does not depend on applause, and a posture that does not need to be explained. This bothers you. It's uncomfortable because the world is used to broken women, dependent on other people's approval, trapped by the fear of not being enough. When you walk knowing who you are in God, without shouting it, without proving anything, your simple presence exposes wounds that other people try to hide. Envy arises right there, not because you did something wrong, but because your existence reminds others of what they have abandoned in themselves. There are people who don't envy what you have, but they envy what you carry. They look and can't understand how you withstand pressures that would bring many people down, how you remain firm even after losses, rejections, and silence. A woman chosen by God learns to stand up without having to humiliate anyone, and learns to win without having to step on those who have fallen. This is disconcerting. The heart of those who live in comparison cannot bear to see someone who does not live in competition. Envy appears when they realize that you don't need to step over anyone to advance, because God opens paths where there was nothing. And this hurts those who have tried everything and still remain empty. There is also envy that comes from people close to you, and this is perhaps the most difficult to deal with. People who walk beside you, who know your story, who saw your tears, but who couldn't bear to see you grow. Because when God begins to honor you, He does not erase the past. He shows that it was precisely the past that strengthened you. The chosen woman bears scars that are visible to those with discerning eyes, and this should inspire, but it often arouses resentment. Some wanted you to remain small, dependent, asking for permission to exist. When this doesn't happen, envy disguises itself as criticism, harsh advice, and rude comments. Many people confuse envy with open hatred, but most of the time it comes silently, masked as concern or false friendship. The woman chosen by God attracts envy because she does not conform to what is expected of her. She learns to say no without guilt and yes without fear. You learn to remove yourself from environments where your faith is constantly attacked, and this is seen as arrogant by those who never had the courage to take a stand. Your obedience to God becomes a mirror that reflects the disobedience of others, and no one likes to see themselves that way. That's why they try to diminish, discredit, question their choices, as if this could nullify what God has already confirmed. There are also those who are jealous because you carry hope even when everything seems lost. The chosen woman learns to trust God when there are no visible signs of change. She remains firm when others give up, and this constancy irritates those who experience emotional ups and downs. Your faith does not depend on favorable circumstances, and this creates discomfort. Many want the result of their trust, but they do not want to pay the price of renunciation, waiting, and obedience. So instead of being inspired, they choose to envy, because it is easier than recognizing that they would need to change from within. Another point that generates envy is the spiritual authority that a chosen woman carries, even without raising her voice. There is something in the look, in the speech, in the posture that conveys security. It's not hardness, it's conviction. And conviction scares those who live in constant doubt. You don't need to dominate environments because your presence already communicates limits. Envious people feel this and react by trying to destabilize you, provoke you, test you. They want to see you lose your balance so they can feel better about themselves. But when you remain calm, trusting in God, their frustration only increases. Envy often arises because you have not corrupted yourself. In a world where values are negotiable, a chosen woman decides to remain true to what she believes, even if it costs opportunities, relationships, or approval. This deeply bothers those who chose shortcuts and today live trying to justify decisions that did not bring peace. Its integrity exposes the fragility of those who live by appearance, and instead of admitting this, they prefer to attack, criticize, or spread doubts about you. Envy, in this case, is a desperate attempt to bring you down. There is also the envy of those who realize that you carry purpose. Even if you don't see everything clearly yet, even if it's still in process, something in you points to something bigger. Spiritually sensitive people realize this, and, if they are not well resolved, they feel threatened. Not because you want to take someone's place, but because your life shows that God still calls, empowers, and transforms. Envy arises from the fear of losing space, of no longer being seen, of no longer being relevant. But what is from God does not compete, it adds up. It is important to understand that the envy you attract is not a sign of error, but it is also not a reason to be proud. It is a warning to keep your heart humble and your eyes on God. The chosen woman learns not to respond to attacks with attacks, nor to justify herself all the time. She trusts that God defends better than any explanation. This does not mean being passive, but being wise, knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, when to remain and when to walk away. Spiritual maturity teaches you that not every battle needs to be faced head-on. When you understand this, envy stops hurting you in the same way. It becomes just a sign that you are on the right path, but never the fuel for your journey. You don't live to prove anything to anyone, you live to honor God with who you are. And that frees you. The chosen woman does not become hardened because of envy, she becomes stronger. She does not isolate herself out of fear, she better selects who can walk alongside her, and that changes everything. If today you feel the weight of crossed looks, nasty comments, inexplicable separations, understand that this does not define who you are. God doesn't make mistakes when He chooses, and He didn't call you to live trying to please those who can't stand the light He placed in you. Stay strong, stay sensitive to God's voice, stay who you are. Envy may even try to stop you, but it will never have the power to nullify what God has already written about your life. And when you understand this, you walk lighter, safer, and more aware of the value you carry.